Hi, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to episode 25 of Awards Chatter, the Hollywood Reporter's awards podcast. I'm the host, Scott Feinberg, and this is a very special episode, not only because it's a milestone number episode, but also because we are joined for the better part of an hour by two of the most remarkable artists and women out there, Lady Gaga and Diane Warren, who collaborated on the song Till It Happens to You in the documentary The Hunting Ground. Both are quite likely to be nominated when the Oscar nominations are announced on the 14th. And we should note in regard to that there are less than 24 hours remaining until Oscar nomination voting closes. So if you're an Academy member and you haven't yet voted, you're going to want to do that pretty soon. But back to our conversation with Lady Gaga and Diane Warren, which took place at Lady Gaga's home in Malibu and really took my breath away. It deals with so many heavy issues, just like the film, and yet does so in a way that I think you will feel is well worth your time. It's a raw, honest, and emotional discussion about the film, the song, and the artist's own experiences with sexual assault, which they've rarely talked about before. As most listeners probably know, these two artists are at the top of their game. Diane Warren is a songwriter, not a singer, and she is responsible for many of the greatest hits performed by others, songs that you certainly know and love, including 7 that have been nominated for the Best Original Song Oscar over the last 28 years. Those are Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now from Mannequin, Because You Loved Me from Up Close and Personal, How Do I Live from Con Air, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing from Armageddon, Music of My Heart from Music of the Heart, There You'll Be from Pearl Harbor, and Grateful from Beyond the Lights just last year. Rather remarkably, Diane Warren still has never won an Oscar. Lady Gaga's a little newer to the scene, but unless you've been living under a rock for the last 8 years, you know who she is and you know what makes her so great. She is a hit machine of all genres, not just pop, but jazz and everything in between. She's never been nominated for an Oscar before, but she's won just about every other accolade that a singer-songwriter can, and she certainly endeared herself to the Academy last year when she performed an incredible musical tribute to Julie Andrews during the Oscars ceremony. I can't thank these two ladies enough for taking time out of their busy schedules to share their thoughts and views, especially so openly, and I hope you enjoy and benefit from the conversation as much as I did. Well, first of all, thank you both so much for doing this. And Lady Gaga, I know Diane for a long time, so I know I can call her Diane. I don't know what's the proper... Does somebody call you Lady, Ms. Gaga? Like, what's the proper way to do this?
Well, most of my friends
Yes.
call me Gaga.
Gaga.
But also I have friends that Tony Bennett calls me Lady.
Lady, okay.
Oh, wow.
And so does my guys in my jazz band. They all call me Lady.
Lady, okay.
That's so cool.
And...
what do you like?
Well, I quite like Gaga. I mean,
Gaga.
That's who I am now.
Sure.
But also, my real name is Stephanie, and Diane calls me that sometimes.
Yeah.
Elton calls me Stephanie.
Stephanie.
Oh, that's so nice.
Well, I really appreciate having us over to your house to do this, and it's such an important song that you guys have done, and for an important film. But before we get to the heavier stuff, I wondered if we can just do a little mutual admiration here for a second, because I know you both are fans of each other. So before you met, do you remember when you first became aware of the other person and what it was that appealed to you about them? And maybe, Lady Gaga, we could start with you about Diane.
I don't want to miss a thing. That's how I learned about Diane Warren.
Wow.
And I was so kind of blown away by that song at a really young age, and it made me cry every time I heard, and I think that's what she is so great at. And, you know, in our own way with Till It Happens to You, it achieves that kind of, I think, that heart-wrenching place.
Yeah.
But that was the song. I mean, what a tremendous song, and it was sung so well by Steven Tyler. Yeah. And it's one of those moments that changes kind of your perspective forever about music, I think.
Totally. And Diane, how about you?
When I first heard you, I was so impressed with Gaga's first album, and just there's such artistry. She's not only a great singer, she's a great songwriter, she's a great performer, she's a great everything. You know, and way past all the Gaga persona, all that underneath is an artist that will last forever. No joke. You know, it's all cool with all the cool things you do and all the you know what I mean? All the Gaga-ness, but underneath it, there's an artist. There's who else can go head to head with Tony Bennett. That's Tony Bennett, and you stood side by side, equal.
You know what? I really feel just that I've been so blessed to learn from really great people.
And that's another thing that's great about you, is that you feel that way. And I think you'll always feel that way. And I think that's what's going to keep. That's what being an artist is. And I love everything you do. When I saw you do "You've Got a Friend" at the Music Cares thing, that was the best performance.
Carole King, James Taylor.
I'm sorry. That was that. I just fell off the chair. So on top of everything else,
right.
It was like, oh my God.
And what a serendipitous thing to happen, because that was such a hard performance for me, that song, and singing it. It was like a difficult time in my life, what the song was about, the lyrics. It's just, and then you add the fact that Carole King is 3 tables away from
That's
you.
not intimidating at all.
And so for her to have loved me in that moment is so powerful.
That's one of the
me.
best performances, not like I've seen of yours, but I've ever seen in my life.
Well, let's go back to the beginning for a moment for both of you, because my understanding is you knew pretty early on this is what you wanted to do. You both, I believe, started at college, so you were covering your bases, and then you couldn't resist, right? You kind of went
I was
off.
a college dropout.
Well,
when you did the Billboard, when your mom was talking about, I mean, this is on top of everything else. She's Billboard Woman of the Year, and a million other things. Yeah, like so deserved. But when your mom was talking about you and giving her the award, I was like going. And I wrote your mom a letter. I don't know if she got it. I wrote an email. I thought that was so much. There was so much. I felt like we have similar paths in a weird way.
We do.
Like we knew what we wanted to. And when you said in your speech, you go, it's all the people that didn't support us and that turned us down, that gave us the fire. Because that's what gave me the fire. Not necessarily people that believe, although that's great too, but the people that don't.
The people that don't believe in you give you the most inspiration.
Yeah,
really.
Because you have to prove them wrong. I had to do that with my mom even.
Well, I imagine when Gaga, you went off to NYU, I believe, and then left, that's a big decision.
You dropped out as well?
And for you, Diane, I think L.A. Pierce College and Cal State, right?
Yeah,
Northridge?
my dad said he'd support me if I went to college, so I just took the most bullshit
That's exactly what happened to me.
Really?
Yeah. And then I said I want to leave college.
Yeah.
And they said you have a year to get some kind of a deal happening, or we're going to make you go back, and you can't use your money that was saved away from school. So I had 3 jobs to pay for I had to pay for my rent, and I had to pay also my demo bills.
This was in New York.
Wow. Yeah, it's expensive. Yeah. So I was working as a waitress, as a bartender. I worked as a dancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
All that. But you know what? It's
not a dancer like, in the Philharmonic ballet edition. Not that
Joffrey
kind of dancer.
Ballet,
It was not like that. No, it was more of like the exotic type.
Hey, well.
You know what? You did it for the love of your music, because you were going to do anything.
I would do anything for my music. I mean,
especially
at that age, I mean, it was completely thrilling for me. I found it actually to be funny that people were willing to give me their money for doing something so kind of what I thought to be talentless of myself at the time. I do believe it is a talent, though, to be a dancer. If I wasn't making a buck, I was home asleep.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, that was
the work ethic.
That's how I got here.
So what
hard work. And by the way, that's this one's work ethic's insane. I think we share that too.
Yeah.
But like, it's hard to do what you do is harder, because you're not just writing songs. You're going on the road. You're performing.
This is why her and I are friends. Long story short, she saw in my first album a songwriter.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When most of the world saw a pop star.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I've been since that first record trying to show people that I actually wrote all of that and came up with the ideas, and that it wasn't marketing strategy or that I wasn't put into a machine, and then this is the artist that they created. This is something, I had a wonderful creative team that I still work with, but this is my heart and soul. And as a woman in the industry, it just kind of takes time to build that credibility.
Right.
And Diane, why I love her so much is that I don't have to jump through any hoops with her. Right. It's like, my talent's here, hers is there, and there's a piano, and that's it. And there's nothing else.
Yep. So when you guys were sort of at that point before it quite happened, and you were working those jobs, and Diane, you were delivering things, and
He had my 2-week job at Music Express. I'm from the Valley, so I didn't even know Hollywood. I was trying to give my cassettes to everybody, and I got fired on my birthday.
for doing that.
Oh my God, the things
I
that
filled
would
up my
happen.
tank after
Yeah.
they fired me.
So
at the
what
gas-
for each of you was there an actual turning point, a moment, or was it a really like, did something happen that suddenly it's all okay, it's all, we don't have to stress as much as I've been stressing, or
Yeah, I know that never happens. That never happens.
I am
That never
more
happens.
stressed
Me
today
too,
than
me
I
too.
ever was.
Really?
when I
Me
was-
too.
No, yeah, because I didn't care if I became famous, and people don't realize that. But my subject matter was fame, and I thought it was interesting to kind of dress like a fashionista and kind of envelop myself in this plastic image and sing things that are very heartfelt and wrap them up in something, kind of not heartfelt.
So how did that start? How did the idea of I think you've called it the theater of the absurd. Yeah, that's
The theater of that's part
the
of
music
it's
business?
part of it is. I could
synonymous.
definitely been to a few of those shows back in my days doing showcases
Right,
over
right.
and over. That was the theater of the absurd, but I can't tell you. That is, I think that's because when I fell in love with David Bowie. When I was living on the Lower East Side, I always felt that his glamour was something he was using to express a message to people that was very healing for their souls.
And like you, there was an artist underneath it.
He is a true artist, and I don't know if I ever went, oh, I'm going to be that way like this, or if I arrived upon it slowly, realizing it was my calling, and that's what drew me to him. I don't know. I just know that you can use the theater of your imagination to entertain people beyond their wildest dreams, and then you can put something inside of that changes the world. And that to me is when you make something truly great as an artist. You don't nail it every time. I definitely don't, with all my songs, always hit that note.
No one does.
You try, and every once in a while the world lights on fire with the music.
Right.
Now, Diane,
Like
an
this,
interesting,
with this song.
Yeah, this song, sure, and we're about to get to it. But I first want to ask you how it came to be, because we've talked a lot of times about your career, and you're very self-deprecating about your own voice. That singing your own songs is not something you ever thought
No.
you could do or should do.
She's self-deprecating about everything.
Yeah, that's true.
It's sort of part of your humor.
But I wonder, just how does somebody become a songwriter without singing their own songs? How did that happen?
Well,
for
I have
you?
older sisters, and I saw my sister's records. I saw the little name,
Yeah.
and I remember singing "Up on the Roof." Isn't that weird? Carole King, Jerry Goffin. I remember that being the first song that I saw, and I remember thinking when I was like about 8 years old, I want to be there. Isn't that weird? And I wasn't even a songwriter yet, but I think I either was psychic or I willed myself into that. But I always wanted to be someone who wrote songs. I never had the thing of. First of all, I have stage fright.
But she does sing. I have the pleasure of getting to hear her sing when we work
Pleasure.
together.
I don't know if it's. I don't know how pleasurable.
It's lovely, Diane.
Thank you. I mean,
It's heartfelt and lovely.
It's heartfelt. I don't know,
Well, let's talk about the thing
Thank you, though.
that first brought you together.
Well, I wanted to work with you before, remember? And just, what happens when it happens.
Yeah.
Right? Because I wanted to work with you when
We're
I first
also
heard
both
you.
very tough nuts to crack.
Yeah.
How do you mean?
Well, it's like she has her way and I have my way, and like my way is really like free
Right.
and kind of, and her way is much more kind of, I think, disciplined and regimented.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
work well together, but we
opposite.
have to come to an agreement.
Right.
But that is the nature of harmony, isn't it?
And then there's also like the timing works out. The right time
Yeah.
happens when it's supposed to happen. When I saw you that night at that Carole King thing, though, I was like obsessed.
I always say it's like working with someone, a partnership. I always use the analogy of a harmony and what the word means, because in order for two people to sing together in harmony, they have to have an understanding of where they are in the music.
Right. And there has to be a slight dissonance in a weird way too, right? Because that's what makes it that little.
Well, there can be, but that understanding is what creates harmony.
True.
And so I think that's why we're here, is because we understand one another.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, let me ask you, before we get into the reasons why you responded to the documentary and pursued this song, just logistically, take us through how Kirby Dick and Amy Ziering, who made The Hunting Ground after previously making another movie about sexual assault, The Invisible War, which got nominated for an Oscar, how did they come to you guys?
Well, it came through Bonnie Greenberg, who I've known for, 10 years. It's a funny story, but it's another story. She came to me and telling me about the girls' stories. This is before the movie was even shot. And it was just like, it really inspired me. And
stories of young girls that had been sexual assault.
Yeah, it's just like, I got to be involved in this and stuff. And and I know they didn't even want a song at the beginning, in the movie and stuff. So just.
So their executive producer, Paul Blavin, goes to Bonnie Greenberg, get us a song for the end of the movie.
Yeah, I guess Paul financed it and went to Bonnie, and then Bonnie came to me.
Somebody you knew.
Yeah.
And now how do you then, for the first time, I guess, reach out to Lady Gaga?
I called you, and I played, and you were.
But how does that beginning of that call even work? Hey, I'm a documentary about sexual assault has called me for a song.
Well, let me tell you part of aside from her being one of the best artists that's ever lived and on the planet, who I'd be honored to ever do anything with. I'd also heard that you'd gone through a similar situation. I thought, what, I texted you and I said, what, call me, you have to hear this. And you were so emotional, and when I played it for you. And
it was very intense to speak to her about that.
To whatever extent you're comfortable, I think you've spoken about your reasons why you responded to this before, so I would never bring it up otherwise, but for the sake of somebody who's trying to understand why, who may not have heard that and is trying to understand why you really connected with this.
Want me to start?
Whoever, maybe you can go
I think we all have our own. In fact, we just did the New York Times talk, I said, did you see, when I said how many people in that room? Did you see how many hands went up?
A lot of hands went up.
The whole place's hands went up. It's like there's so much of it that goes on.
And you kind of, by talking about this, I think destigmatize it. So anyway,
and I think the song is too.
And
I think the song's
well.
giving. And I'd had, it's all about trust. It's like my thing was my best friend's dad from the time I was a kid. And it really, it fucks you up. It's fucked me up to this day. I don't know if that you could, any amount of therapy helps.
And you never talk about it too.
My friend, her dad's still alive, and she's still friends, and she doesn't. She's not listening to this podcast. But I never said anything, and I never even told my parents. And why? Why didn't I tell my parents? I probably felt ashamed. But that's the thing. You feel shame. You're like the victim, and you feel shame. You're a kid. What does a kid know?
And you were how old at this time?
I was 12.
Terrible.
I was 12.
Yeah.
And so
she was so young.
Yeah.
And it's like I tapped into that, and I felt with these girls, and a lot of what happens with these girls on campus or in general. It's a lot of times it's people it's your friends, or it's people you trust, right? It's like people,
absolutely.
And that kills you the worst.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And Gaga, this in your case, this happened back when you were still Stephanie, right?
Was it when I was still Stephanie?
I guess, when did that change?
Actually, I don't think it was.
It wasn't?
No.
So we're talking how recently? If I can ask.
It happened, I was already Lady Gaga.
Wow.
When it happened.
Wow.
Yeah.
And in your case, it wasn't, it's not somebody that a loved one, or somebody that you knew as a family friend?
It was not a loved one, but it was someone that I knew.
Yeah.
And it was done to manipulate me in conjunction with money and my music.
Fucked up, right?
And it was terrifying.
Yeah.
And I was really young. And I can't say who, and I'm not interested in that, to be honest. It's something that changed me forever. And it made me question everything about what I had done to be where I am today. I thought to myself, did I do something wrong to bring this on myself?
That's what's messed up.
What did I do?
How could you have done something to?
Well, because, I put myself in those situations, and it's my
Doesn't-
choice
it doesn't
to
matter
be
what
a
situation.
woman in a very male-oriented business where there's a lot of men who have a lot of money and power, and I'm alone, and I choose to wear these clothes, and I choose to dress this way and sing about sex, and
But that does not
you
give
sort of
anybody the right,
wonder if you're
ever.
implying to people that it's okay, and but I have to say that because I'm saying that because I know that if anyone is listening to this that has been through anything like this before, that you might have felt that way where you're like, what did I do to bring this on to myself?
What was I wearing? What was I? Did I?
Yeah.
But you know what? That's what they do when they put when a rapist goes on trial. They make them
victim.
raped again. They
Right.
blame the victim. What you wanted it. You were acting like no. If you could walk naked down the street, that does not give anybody the right to do
Well,
that.
what's very interesting about the documentary and about what you're saying is that it shows how people who clearly have been wronged still have a hard time ever talking about it. And for each of you, how long was it before you could talk about it?
Oh, I didn't.
Diane?
I never told my mom and dad. I told my mom like maybe before she passed away, not when I was an adult. And when she said, "Why didn't you tell your dad?" I go, "I don't know." And I never told my friend. And I told a couple of my friends that we knew each other, but I didn't really talk about it. And when we did the New York Times thing, I blurted it out there. I was like shocked. I told a room full of strangers, But I think that's the thing now. Is like this year with the whole. Whether it's Bill Cosby or the hunting ground, or I think that or there was an article. Somebody became friends with Jackie Fuchs, who was raped by Kim Fowley. Did you read about that? It was really interesting. She was in the Runaways, and and finally she told the story. 40 years after the fact, but horrible. But I'm saying it's like all coming out of the dark corners of where it is.
I won't lie. I will tell you that Diane's much more willing and open to be looking at, reading, and watching all this subject.
Yeah.
This for me has been very difficult. Even speaking about it right now, I find myself, I'm kind of like looking out the window, like, and then I'm going, am I being rude? I'm not listening. Like, but I genuinely have put it in a place that is very strange.
Yeah,
and you're not a shy person, so I mean, it's just
it's something that's really hard for you to deal with.
Yeah, and it's like you're asking about when you told your parents. It's like I'm not even yet ready to fully tell the story.
Yeah.
Like I'm here telling you that it happened, but
that's all you have to say. Till it happens to you, it happened to you.
Till it happens to you, you just don't know how it feels. And my mother I told my mother at some point in my early 20s because it happened when. Well, I told her before then, actually. I mean, it happened when I was 19 years old.
Wow. So 10.
But still, you're still a kid, man.
10 years later, I still am like, if I saw the person, I think I would just I think I would just cry instantly. I mean, I just, you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that it's,
reflex.
I'll punch him for you.
No, come on. It's not that. It's just, I think it's interesting on this podcast that we have someone that's been through this, that's older than me, that is on the other side of it maybe in some ways, that she's able to be such a force, and I envy you in a way, to be honest. It's every time I sing that song it's difficult for me
because it brings
but yet it's so healing because there's people that like this song is healing people.
Absolutely.
When I got
and important to talk about.
And it's like what I was saying, like in the shadows. So all this stuff has been in the shadows. Here we have a song that's bringing this out. I got on the plane after the New York Times thing. I think I sent you a picture of the girl. The flight attendant hugged me, gets from the seat, and I was kind of like put off, like why you? She goes, I want to thank you. The song is saving my life, and it's having such an impact.
The impact is something we should definitely talk about. But before we do, let's talk about just the coming together of the song itself. So when you say that Diane called you up and performed it for you and you were very moved, so at that point the lyrics were already sort of coming together or in place, or how did this actually evolve?
The gist of it, and then I came here out to see you, we brought it to life, we worked it up more, certain things changed, it
was something that Diane played me originally, the idea that she had of the song over the phone, and then we met and I started to play it and sing it, and I would say, Diane, what do you think of this? Do you like this little bit here, this little melody with going down instead of up, or going up instead of down, or do
and then hearing it being epic, you were hearing, because it was like very somber.
And then the end of the song, there was like, you know, some melodies that I wanted to bring in at the very end, and I did the harmonies with her. I did the B section. It was really stuff that we spent time taking what was already, I think, a beautiful song and making it more, I think, triumphant.
Yeah,
right. And
yeah, that's the thing.
And defiant.
Yeah.
And
it was really defiant. You know what's really interesting, that because you heard it as an epic, and I was like kind of fighting. I was like, no, it's like, and she had this whole vision for it. And what's so interesting about this, and the video wasn't even done at the time. There's 3 parts. Like, it's so like, and the movie too. It's really weird because they start out as victims, they become survivors, and they become activists, right?
Yeah.
In the video, start out like you see them, this horror that happens to them, then they become survivors and they become activists. At the end, you see them walking down the hallway, and the same with the song, because she starts out so where you're just like, it's heartbreaking,
right.
and in the second verse you're getting mad, and by the end,
at the
it's
end,
like
you're
like,
like, you know
that's
what?
like, fuck you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's now the power's mine.
Yeah.
Because you gave me something so
Right.
meaningful when you did that to me.
Right, you
Because
made me
now-
stronger. You didn't
Yeah.
know. You thought you made me a victim. No, fuck you. You made me a million times stronger.
Right.
You made an army out of one little soldier.
When you were
That's what you
saying
did.
own your pain, you can now own your pain
It
instead
can
of
be part of you in a way that you're proud of,
Yeah.
instead of something you feel that you can't acknowledge, or you have
Right.
to hide, or that it's damaged you in some way, or that you're not good enough. Or, like I said, for me, it's like, what did I do wrong? Did I
Right.
bring this on myself?
I think everybody feels that too, because I felt like that's why I don't think I said anything, because you feel like it was kind of my fault.
And
it was,
who would believe me? And, you know, listen, I guess I was always taught that, you know, rape is a girl or boy, you know, in an alleyway gets, you know.
not by a friend, someone you trust.
Yeah, we talk about and we hear about, you know, street crimes like that, and you know, domestic crimes like that, but I don't know that we really talk a lot about, you know, interfamily molestation, and you know, young kids that are molested in school by teachers, or in churches.
It's amazing how often it is an authority figure, because we're seeing this year, obviously, one of the movies people are talking about the most, in addition to this one, is Spotlight, which is about this happening in the church. You've got Cosby, who was doing it to people.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
So
just
it's like coming out of it's like it's been in this dark shadow, all this stuff, and now it's like people are coming out and going, no, fuck you, no, you don't get to do that, no.
Well, I think that that's generally the time that we are headed towards in this country. I think lots of things are going to start coming out of the dark shadows. You know, it's time for
This is a
people
big
to
one.
pay attention.
Yeah.
This is a big one, and there are other
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
You know, it's a time for us to be awake.
Right.
And,
True.
you know, we say we need to be in the moment, right?
Right.
But, like, while we're in that moment, we need to take a real long, hard look at the truth.
True.
And I think that this issue is one of many issues that are going to continue to get louder and louder until there's reform.
Let me take one moment to step away from the content of the song and just ask you about the process again, and whether or not the process of writing a song for a movie is different than writing a song under other circumstances. And I'm going to ask each of you.
Writing,
well, but first, you're gonna like this setup, Diane, because I think that it's kind of outrageous when we go through the list of songs that you've done for movies, including, let's just say, the 7 that you've been nominated for.
And Lost.
Nothing's Gonna Stop Us Now, Because You Love Me, How Do I Live, I Don't Want to Miss a Thing, Music of My Heart, There You'll Be, and last year, Grateful. Again, to me, that you should have 3 or 4, let alone 1, or none.
Susan Lucci.
But the question is just this: in your experience, so these are songs that were written for movies,
Right.
Is that any different than when you were to write a
No, because
song?
it's getting inspired, right? It's always getting inspired. You know, the only thing with movies, you have a lot of opinions and stuff. You know, that's what's different.
So you're
for
getting
me.
notes about how to,
or like, you know, not just that, or like, you know, you have to, like, 5 people have to hear it, and then the director has to hear it, and the producer has to hear it, and you know, it's a lot of.
But I also
people.
I can see how, I mean, for me personally, I would approach things differently for a different kind of film, depending on what it is. You know, this movie this song it spoke to the message, and it also encouraged the message of the film. I think it was sort of part of the movie in a way, whereas I also, when I think about, film scoring and things like that, maybe the music doesn't always have to extend the message of the picture.
Right. See, there's also,
but this did.
And also, here's what's really important, right? Too is what I want is the song to fit in that movie, but I want someone to, like, you could take songs on the list, okay?
Right.
Because You Loved Me. I wrote for Up Close and Personal. Robert Redford's character dies, so that's her. Michelle Pfeiffer is singing that song to him. That became that to me, I was thanking my dad for believing in me when I wrote it, okay? And then also, it became a wedding song. It's like, how do you have a wedding? It's interesting, it's Because You Loved, ED. It became a wedding song.
That's the magic of, her music and why we're a good team as well.
Exactly. But the song it means what it means within this movie. But then I'm looking at people sending me notes. I was bullied at school.
Right.
The song's giving me strength, know. So this song outside of that becomes this whole other thing,
right.
It becomes like, maybe you lost your job, maybe you're sick, maybe you're cutting yourself and you feel nobody gets you. And especially with your fans who feel like you really understand them. That's what's so cool, like you're speaking to them.
Well, that's actually leads perfectly into the question I have for Gaga next, which is that, first of all, I believe this was you had done one previous song for a movie, right? This was the one with Elton John for Romeo and Juliet. Mm-hmm. Was the process, that's an animated movie, what did it, again, any difference, or is it just you do the song for the song?
Well, that song was more Elton's song than my song. I mean, it was I was a part of that song as well, and I did do some little things in it, but that was really his song, and I worked with him on it after they had already really put it in the film, and they were working on it, changing to have the other character. So I was sort of brought in. I have to be honest.
Yeah, no, it's.
I was sort of brought in after. Whereas with this, Diane had started it, and they wanted it for the film, but I was kind of like, well, I'm not working on it unless like it can be ours together because it's too personal.
Right, of course.
And when she extended that to me, that meant a lot. So it's kind of like we took what she already had, and then she gave it to me and was like, okay, now I want it to be yours.
Yeah.
And that's why, I felt like I would never be able to fully sing someone else's song about this issue. I'm not that type of singer, usually. Because I don't usually sing other people's music.
Right.
So she made it her own.
But we did together. And as I made it my own, she was going, oh yeah, or oh no, or you know what I mean? Like
she was making it so epic and stuff. And I remember I was wearing this the night. I remember the same shirt. I remember I'd
be like, what about this? Because Diane likes simple chords, and I don't. I like 8 or 9 changes before we. I'm just like
I made you keep it simple though.
Is that the biggest differences between you two musically? Can you what else?
I like cool chords too, though.
No, she loves it, but she'll be like, "That's too jazzy," Or she'll be like, but I'll be like, "But what about in the bridge?"
Yeah, you were trying to put
okay,
a
fine
ninth on a couple of those. I'm like,
But I do it. I change it sometimes a little bit when I play it, and but the thing is that the heart and soul of the song, it became 2 women together, standing strong, and I just think that is the message. Period. Is that we have to stand together.
Is this a song that you think you would be able to or desire to play at a concert?
Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, she just sang it when.
I mean, my fans would go insane if I played this. I mean, they're so amazing and aware and passionate about helping each other. And
when you played it at Billboard, you tore the house down. When she just got
I heard, I know, and
it's also totally like a totally punk song in a way. I mean, that's what I think she liked about the way I was singing it at first. So I was like, what if we do it like this, and what if we just like round the melody here a couple times more like this, and it was just because I wanted it to feel kind of
epic. Fuck you,
aggressive.
Yeah.
And worn out.
Yeah.
And wisdom,
Yeah.
strength. Like,
Exactly.
you're not going to, like, I wanted my finger in your face
Yeah.
the whole time.
Yeah.
And you're
was
building
singing
to it, but the first
And it
verse
feels
it's
it.
not, but then the second verse, the
No, the
finger
first
comes up.
verse is, you just told me it'll get better
Yeah.
in time. That's I sang that song like I would act in one of my, on television. I from the beginning of that song, I say, you tell me it gets better. So
Right.
the moment is that someone in my life just again told me that it would get better.
Right.
And I'm going, you know what? I'm so sick of hearing that.
Right.
And I'm so sick of people walking in and out of my life telling me that I'm going to be
Okay.
because I am still in so much pain that you can't understand.
Right.
And
You're speaking
Yeah.
as yourself or as the person who's...
I'm speaking as
Yourself.
myself,
Yeah.
and as the person that's singing
Yeah.
in the song. I'm
'Cause she is the
speaking for the
person.
world.
Yeah, of course,
I'm
yeah.
speaking for every woman or man that's been assaulted. I'm and saying to the people in my life, I'm not. What's nice about the song is I'm not singing to my. I'm not singing to the person that hurt me.
No, fuck, they don't even exist. Fuck them.
That's
they don't,
like
they don't,
not worth my.
no,
they're dead
not worth
to
a
me.
thought. They're
Right.
just a dead,
Right?
yeah.
That the person that I'm singing to is the person that wants to heal me, and I'm telling them how they can.
And by the way, that's healing other people while it's
Right.
healing you, which is really kind
And
of an
I feel
amazing
the way
thing.
that I tell them how they can heal me is by stop acting
Right.
like you know better than I do.
Right.
Right.
Tell me that I know better.
Nobody-
Tell me
Right.
I'm strong.
Right.
Tell me that.
But guess what? At the end of the day, you don't need them to because you are strong. How about that?
Well, let me bring it to this. Prior to this song, it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, but for each of you, this is probably the most personal song
Yeah.
that you've been a part of. What else has come closest?
It's hard to think.
My song "Speechless."
Speechless. And for people, who are going to go and look it up and play it again or reference it, what can you just give a little subtext or context about
My
it?
father was diagnosed when he was younger with a defect in his heart, in his aortic valve, and he was very sick. And it was just when the fame was really getting big that he needed to have this surgery or a replacement, or he was going to die. I mean, it was just kind of one of those situations where he could have dropped dead at any second, and he had a really hard time dealing with having the surgery, and he started to drink and eat and I just sort of felt like he had decided he was not gonna live. And so I wrote Speechless about a night that he called me, and he said he had been drinking, and I was just so afraid for him.
Wow.
That I was speechless on the other end of the phone. Like I just couldn't even respond because I was so terrified every second of the day that he was going to die. And so I wrote that song for him to convince him to have the surgery.
Wow. I have one other one, which is weird. I wrote it's a weird story. I wrote a song called When I'm Back on My Feet Again years ago that Michael Bolton did. And it's the quickest song I've ever written because I felt my dad had just passed away. And he had heart attack, I guess. I mean, he had
Suddenly.
heart failure. Well, no, he was in the hospital, but he died of heart failure. But I didn't even think he was going to die. But I wrote the song When I'm Back on My Feet Again. And it was almost like, it was the weirdest things because I felt my dad was writing it. It was almost like he was writing it when he comes back to life. It was, I can't even explain. It was so weird, but I know my dad's spirit, And then Michael wrote, that's the first time he ever did a song he didn't write, and he did the song, and in his video, he played his father who'd also died. And he had makeup on as an old man that stuff he wanted to tell his dad. So it was like really emotional.
Wow.
Well, music, I mean, you guys have both seen prior to this song can really change a lot of people's lives, right? So, I mean, one of the things that I'm aware of is the Born This Way Foundation, which you do with your mom, Gaga, and it came out of obviously the song Born This Way. And maybe you can talk about just how you feel about is it almost like a responsibility now when you say something or sing something because you know that it carries so much weight?
I definitely think about that more now. It's something that I don't always think about, depending on the piece and what it's for. But I definitely have in the past few years especially, had to, for lots of reasons, take a look at myself and my career and go, okay, what is it that I'm going to say now? And what is it that the world wants to hear from me, truly? And I think in one way people, they think they want to hear, just pop music from you or great pop music from you. But I think in addition to that, people also want to be healed by music. And
you could do both at the same time, by the way.
You can,
be great pop music that
but
heals.
like I said, it doesn't always catch. It doesn't always work out that way. But when it does, like it did with Born This Way, there is something that I might be one of the only people in the world that have ever witnessed it. But I watched throngs and throngs of the LGBT community at my shows come together before they were 18 years old and decide that they were going to change things. Wow. And like, I am proud of my fans in a way that is like, people don't understand it because they don't know the extent to which I witnessed
wow.
those kids' lives changing. And so for me,
so a song gave look at what songs do. Look what that song did. Look what this song did.
If what that song did, if anything, is forced people and the radio to play the words gay, straight, bi,
right, wow,
transgender.
Right.
It's like that was the first time that word was ever on the radio ever in the history of America.
That's amazing.
And I just wanted it to be there. Yeah. I didn't care how or why or, and some people think maybe it's poetic, the song, others don't. I didn't care.
Right.
I wanted that song to rock the world from the inside out, not
Which
even about it's not about the party.
Right.
It's like, who cares about it?
It's like you're celebrating. Levels. Some people hear it on one level. Some people hear it on
and it inspired a lot of gossip, that song, as well. It was kind of like this whirlwind storm. And I remember thinking, well, I wanted it to be a storm. Yeah. I don't know if this was the storm I thought would come.
Right.
But then you start to see where the head of culture is. And that sometimes...
You see the power of, it's like the power of a song. I mean, music does things that other things can't do.
Yes, but also the world is responsible for how they choose to interpret moments. Right. And the press is responsible as well. And it's like when artists try to put good messages into the world, I think there should be maybe a little extra attention paid to those songs.
I
just
agree.
because
like
of their meaning.
Well, I'll tell you, there was a quick story I'd love to just get your reaction to, but just the song "You Get What You Give." That's the title,
New
right?
Radicals.
New Radicals.
Yeah.
I remember Greg Alexander saying he put in there health insurance people dying, FDA, big bakers lying, the whole thing, mainly and then also had the stuff about Courtney Love and whatever, because he wanted to see what would people fixate on. And all he ever got asked about, and it's the reason he stepped away from the business for a long time, was, why are you going after Courtney Love? Why are you talking about this? Nobody's looking at the issues that he was trying to highlight.
And that's way worse now with the internet and Twitter and all that.
It is, but it's. I do feel that things are changing. Mm-hmm. I do see people trying to be, or I see publications and I see things on blogs and the internet. Mm-hmm. I see organizations trying to have good people in there and to reform their ways. I think the days of seeing kind of like that, I'm hoping the days of seeing just like the incessant like lies and trash every hour that
can I be
was
cynical
a
for a second?
Ago.
I don't see that change. Do you really see that changing?
I think it's not great, but I see the only thing that I don't see changing, that I what I'm saying is I see people coming together.
Yeah.
Right.
But I see also that networks are not being held responsible for curating the news, curating how we see things.
They should
trying to cater to ratings.
They're catering to ratings, and it
there'll be live executions if they could be. Trust me.
Young people and older people in America who maybe haven't thought too long and hard about why Donald Trump is running.
Right.
So scary.
They look at this and go, oh, well, I've been seeing him everywhere, so he must be important, or it must be important, because all of these networks are giving him time, so he must.
Fascist.
But the truth is that people don't know that the reason that so many politicians, I won't single him out, so many politicians and people are on TV is because it makes money.
But look at what happens.
Not because it's good.
But look what happens
for America.
But look what happens. Like you're talking about, like things are getting better. Like Trump can say the most outrageous thing, which you'd think would end a career. Like there's been 20 things he said that has been horrific.
All that,
Right, but it keeps every time he does that, his numbers go up.
It's a weird time
Crazy.
to be alive.
It
well,
is.
It's just important time to pay attention.
It's important. It's an important time just to put great music out there too, because again, it can change things. Whether it's Born This Way, whether it's Till It Happens to You, whether it's anything.
And we have the potential in times like this to cling to the arts.
Right.
I mean,
cling to love and each other and enjoy. Entertainment when the world is doing that, behaving that way. It's a good time to enjoy art.
Very briefly,
it's like we need it even more.
You do.
I hope very briefly. There's just two last things I want to pose to you guys, and I think they're pretty, provocative. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. One of the shocking things about the documentary, The Hunting Ground, is we see the girls at the beginning who are so excited they've been accepted to school, and then we kind of know what at least 1 in 5 of them, supposedly, according to the best stats we have in store for them. So the question I have, having, you guys have now really, aside from your own personal experiences, studied this movie, studied the topic. If you had a daughter who was about to go near college age, knowing what is out there right now, what do you do? You can't keep them in the nest forever, but on the other hand, it's like sending somebody into a snake pit. It sounds.
It's not even just college; it's the world.
Right. So, Diane, how would you handle that? And then we'll come.
Wow. I don't know. I'm glad I don't have kids. I have 3 animals.
Right.
I'm cool. So none of them go to college.
Right.
So I don't know how to answer that.
Got it.
I
don't
just
know
college,
if you
it's
hope
life.
to have children. Or...
The good news is I won't have to worry about that for at least another probably 18 years, right? Unless I'm getting pregnant like now, which I'm not, not.
Right.
And I'm hoping 20 years from now things will be different.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, what we can teach, I think, our young girls and boys is to be respectful to one another and to know that people are now paying attention and that they're listening. If you
can't get away with it anymore.
Uncomfortable with anyone at school, it's important to speak up. I think it's important for parents to make their children feel like they can have an open dialogue about sex, period. I'm not categorizing rape and sex together, but because it's a sexual thing, it's hard to speak to your parents about. And I think that having that dialogue with your kids before they go to school and letting them know that this is an issue, I think that's the most important thing that we can do is make kids aware that this happens, period. And that, for example, for myself, had I been told that the nature of the business and the places and people that I would be interacting with, had I been told that it would be that dangerous for me, maybe I would have done things differently, or I would have felt differently. You can't control everything, but you can help inspire a good, solid philosophy in your kids, and just try to keep a good head on their shoulders.
Well, the final question is this. We are just entering 2016.
How did that happen?
I know, it's kind of crazy. And I just want to kind of get your assessments of where you each are at this point. And Gaga, just to provide a little context for folks. I mean, you've obviously, it's now been like, what, 7-8 years that you've had this really, you've kind of blown up on the scene, and people
that long?
And 2008, right, was the beginning.
I'm still here,
You're
baby.
still here.
Shit, I know, right?
But,
Me too.
They
How
can't
did that
take
happen?
me down.
No,
You're not going
they can
away.
try.
But
it's too late now. Fuck 'em.
I mean, the thing that is so
Can't take
interesting
me
to
down.
me is that for a lot of those years, there were, you know, I guess the Little Mazlers encompassed a large number of people, but probably demographically a more narrow number of people. And then in the last year or so, let's just recap. You collaborated with Tony Bennett. You did such a great job honoring Julie Andrews at the Oscars. You returned to, I think, what was your high school passion of acting on American Horror Story. And now with this song, you are kind of, I think, taking more of a activist stand than maybe you've ever done before. And so I just wonder, did you change, or are people just getting to know a side of you that they didn't know before?
Well, no, I have not changed. You know, I think that what happens is when you start out and you start to become big, your career is accelerated into an oblivion by the world and also by many people around you. It takes some time to weed out the good and the bad people, to take notice of the ones that have been there your whole life that are going to now betray you and steal money from you, or
Oh my God, we've all been
I mean,
there.
it's like I can't even begin to tell you, because the truth is, it took me now almost 8 years to be sitting here with you as a grown woman. And to know every inside and out of my business, to have full control over everything, my money, my happiness, my schedule, my body, everything is mine. And I think I've done my best artistically over the years to stay true to myself and authentic, even when there were a lot of people around me that were pulling me in a million directions. I think my work always reflected that. I think you can see in my work when I was being pulled around.
Really?
You can see it in the imagery.
Yeah.
It's totally like explosive
Yeah.
and all over the place, and like I'm constantly when you see me constantly changing my look all the time, for myself, when I look at that, I can feel and see that I am not centered in my humanity, that I become like a doll that's trying to just stay in the game.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
And when I'm with myself now, I have a much more holistic approach to each day. I don't allow anyone to tell me where I'm going to go, who I'm going to shake hands with, what I'm going to do, because now you start to, I mean, one of the scariest things about this business and what's crazy is that the bigger that you get, you start to realize that sometimes when you shake people's hands, you're making other people money.
Wow.
You know, you're making, like, there's so much business going on around you
At the harm of
that
yourself.
people are in the business of you, and you don't even know.
You're a product. It's weird, like
You
to be an
become
artist.
a product, and then you have to
Wow.
sort of go, so who's selling me today? Is it
Right.
you?
And some people never figure it out.
And some people never
Right.
figure it out. And what happens is
And that's
they
sad.
are rotting in a
Yeah.
hole of people that are just taking off the top.
Yeah.
And
then they're surrounded by people that are aiding in their destruction.
And the thing is that my manager, Bobby Campbell, is in the business of making sure that I am healthy every single day, that I ram my mind and my soul into my work.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do. And he knows that. He knows that the reason that we're here is because I give it all every time when I'm healthy.
Yeah.
When I'm not healthy and when I'm not happy, I literally can't. It's like an athlete
Yeah.
in the Olympics.
Right.
You know, if you don't let them train, they can't pull the gold.
Right. It's interesting, isn't it?
I need the time.
Yeah.
You know, artists need the time.
Absolutely.
And what the industry became for a little while. It's like
You're
it
pulled here and there.
Yeah, and it also, everybody has their like way of like, oh, we've been doing it like this for years, and I'm like, well, guess what?
Guess what's
I'm going to
changing?
do it the way that I want to do it, and my way entails a piano and the beach.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll call you when I'm done.
Right on. Good for you. That's the way to do it.
And that's how I did my first record.
And that's
Sounds very healthy
exactly.
to me.
That's
and
smart.
my second record.
And that's why that's one of the reasons why you will be here in 50 years, still doing
and
this.
Diane, we got to get the state of the Diane Warren situation here. Let's just note again, I feel like I'm doing like a graduation speech for each of you, but I want to know.
I'll never graduate.
But we didn't graduate.
Yeah, we're dropouts.
Right, well, here
I
you
got
go.
an honorary degree from the college I dropped out of.
I did too.
Isn't that weird?
I know.
That's
I sort of
great.
looked at it and I was like, I
Like-
think I said I don't deserve that.
deserve
I did
didn't
too.
do it.
Wait, I did too. You know what they did?
I
used to break into the practice rooms. I was teaching myself piano,
Right.
and they gave me a key. I told someone that, and someone told them, they go, "Here's a key to if you ever want to come
That's
back."
great.
They gave me a key.
That's great.
You know,
So let's just say for your closing statement here, it's been something like 35 years.
I've been doing this a long fucking time. But I still love it.
And
I still
you
love it.
And I think that it's reflected in the respect and admiration that so many of your peers have for you, and the fact that your work has remained great for so long. And so I just wonder for you, I guess you started to answer the question I have, which is like, is it still, are you enjoying it? I mean, the work is as good as ever.
I love writing songs.
Yeah.
I put my blinders on.
Yeah.
You get that. I put my blinders on. I go to work. It's the I don't know. The business is like, I could do without a lot of times, but I deal with it. This is the business I'm in, you know. And
I also just love her like work ethic. I can't even relate to like the thought of a 9 to 5 in the studio to write songs. Like
it's just because I get there at 8:30 in the morning.
you're really that. You
or
do
I'm
that to
super
yourself.
disciplined, Like,
see,
then I don't have anything else to do.
I wake up, I roll out of bed, I write, come to the piano, I practice for probably 2 hours,
Really?
and then I go take a shower, I ride my horse, then I come back to
That's
the
probably
piano.
what I should do.
I
It's
sit
probably
with my
healthier.
typewriter for a little while, then I make some lunch. I
Wait for
can't-
inspiration to strike.
Yeah, if I'm not feeling it, it's
Yeah.
I'm not always feeling it. I just like to show up, because if I show up enough, I'll
have to show up.
Yeah, you have to show up. People go like, well, what's the key secret? Showing up, working hard.
But isn't it amazing? I mean, if somebody takes something away from this conversation, aside from all the important stuff about the subject of the documentary and your song, I think it's that two completely different approaches, two people with completely different backgrounds can produce incredible work.
What we have in common is we're passionate. We're passionate
Right.
about our art, about our work. I mean, I don't see art in the pretentious sense of it, but
I mean,
about
the
our
only
work.
thing I would have liked is even more time to work on this song. I work on. So that's the other thing is Diane works for I don't really know.
No, I work a week on a song. I put time.
work,
I don't do it
I work it for a year. I can't.
Really, one song?
I don't know. Not once. Well,
It doesn't tell you when it's done yet. It wants to.
If
they
even
tell
if
me when
it
they're done,
doesn't change,
they drive me
it's
nuts.
still a year of looking at it, the potential.
That's interesting.
I need, and I have to sing it over and over and over
For the
because
rest of
then
your
once I
life.
hear it back, I go, okay, but I wish that it went higher there. So then I go back and I change it. It's like.
But that's actually what you could do. When you're singing it live, you could do all kinds of stuff too, right? You could
See,
change
this is
things
the
around.
thing with her and I. This is the writing process. So she'll go, oh, but just keep it simple. That's the melody, and do that live. And I'm like, yeah, but what if this is a better melody, and we need to follow this train for 2 hours to see if we like this melody, and then you fight about it.
Yeah,
That's great.
And then it makes its way into the second verse only.
Yeah, exactly. Or
Are we getting another Lady Gaga
second
Diane Warren song anytime soon?
Probably.
Probably. All right. I hope so.
You never know.
Well, thank you guys. I really
This was
appreciate
really
it.
fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.